big topic for discussion next month.
Yeah.
Things are still evolving, by the way.
To piggyback on your remark about attendance, I didn't know that was an issue, but I do like your idea about the Facebook. I think maybe having a Facebook group instead of a page and central and dumping any information that you email blast into that group, you might get more people following the group. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Mimosas always help too. Maybe back next year I'll drink some mimosas. So.
We love people booze and stuff. Booze and food.
Well, as you guys know, I'm Nate. I'm the owner of Nate's Driving Training. I'm formerly from Richmond, Virginia. I moved down here in 2015. Actually, let me get to the next slide. So I'm going to kind of use a who, what, when, where, why approach to my slides. We are a full-service company. I'm former Army. I was in the Army from 06 to 09. I learned this trade and did this line of work in Virginia from about 2012 to 2015. When I graduated from Meridian and moved down here, I decided to launch the business in 2017. I ended up doing that in the summer of 2018 and went full-time with it April of 2019. That's kind of officially when the business was more official, so to speak. So we've just kind of grown year over year, gotten busier and busier every year, and we just actually recently hit over 800 5-star authentic Google reviews, so we're super excited about that. A few qualifications about me actually. Me and my entire team, we're all certified dryer exhaust technicians, and I think here in a few slides I'm going to talk a little more about that. But what you may or may not know, and I think most of you probably do know this, is that dryer fires are a thing. In fact, there was a dryer fire in Titusville earlier this year. I actually acquired that dryer, and some of you might have seen that dryer by now. I take that to certain events. The dryer fires, according to the National Fire Protection Agency, they are the 6th leading cause of house fires. So they are high up there on the list, which is why FEMA, fire departments, and insurance companies recommend to have this done annually. Dryer manufacturers, on the other hand, recommend every year or two. So we always inform people of those recommendations, but then go so far to say that we don't really give generic recommendations, although those are pretty good recommendations every year or two, and most people need to go on a 3-year schedule. We base our recommendations off of average loads per week. Because, you know, if you're doing 1 or 2 loads on average per week, but your neighbor's doing 9 or 10 loads, it doesn't make sense for you guys to be in the same schedule. And some people's events are also super long, so that's something to consider. And then, of course, you have snowbirds, people who are only here 3 months of the year or 6 months of the year. So then we kind of customize people's schedule based off of that also. So this is some information. We are a member of the NFPA. This is some more information about dryer fires as it pertains to the NFPA report. You can see during that time period between 2010 and 2014, there was almost 16,000 home structure fires that were from either clothes dryers or washing machines. So they are a real problem. Now, just to kind of briefly go through just kind of to qualify why I'm up here and so on and so forth. So, as you guys know, I am a member of the Space Coast Association of Realtors. I'm also a member of the Space Coast Communities Association. I actually gave the same PowerPoint talk earlier this year at one of their meetings. I'm a non-paying member of BBB, and I'm a former BNI member. And there's all of that's outdated. We have a bunch of reviews and recognition. So as far as the certification, most companies out there are not certified. And what does that mean? You know, there's kind of a running joke in my industry. You're either an average driving cleaner or you're a driving specialist. We all know that in every trade, to include property management, you have people that excel at what they do and you have people that don't excel at what you do. And for people who are certified, it just really means that they are a specialist in their field. And that certification is given out by the Chimney Safety Institute of America, which is located in Indiana. They actually made me a junior instructor, and I recently contributed 2 chapters to their most recent service manual. So I apparently know what I'm talking about. I'm also a repeat special guest at something that's called the Best Practice Summit in Jupiter, Florida, by a company called Innovate. We carry a wide variety of Innovate's products because they're super high quality, whether it's vent covers for like someone's wall or rooftop products or what have you, better hoses on the back of the dryer. I run a class down there teaching people how to take apart people's dryers, which we're gonna go into here in a few minutes. Not the how about that, but the why.
Quick question.
Yes.
Since you're certified by the Chimney
Yeah.
Institute, do you also do chimney?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do not do chimney stuff. Most chimney guys that offer chimney cleaning also do dryer cleaning. We might get into chimney stuff in the future. There's already a handful of companies in the county that do excellent chimney work that we refer to, but at this time we don't. Great question. So this is my team of technicians. Connor's the middle guy. I know Miss Deborah had him come out recently. Appreciate your visits and introducing yourself earlier. He's my lead technician. He's been with me for over 4 years. Then the gentleman on the right, Adam, he's been with me for over a year. He's actually my brother-in-law.
You have Jason?
Jason, say again?
Did you have a Jason?
I did have a Jason. He's no longer with me. Yep. He burned some bridges, ended up stabbing me in the back and started his own company, but I digress.
Well, if I may then, since I interrupt already.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I have used you guys, and I think that you guys are excellent. Actually, Jason was pretty good that
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
And I would always use it, and one thing that I find out, which is to be crazy, like the house where I lived for 23 years when I lived with my son, the dryer was on the wall of the garage where the exhaust would go, like
Sure.
straight out to the
Yeah.
wall. But this, a lot of houses here, like in my case now, the dryer vent goes all the way from the bottom of the floor in the garage,
Yep.
which is lower than the house, to the, all the way up to the roof.
Yep.
Which, really? There's no way that that's not gonna get,
Yeah, I'd like a quick remark about that. A lot of people think that that's a problem, and it's not. You know, science tells us that hot air rises, and the dryer is producing hot air. Lead is also super fluffy and lightweight. So there's no, in fact, there's actually advantages for the vent going vertical. One of the advantages is birds especially, or other critters cannot nest in a vertical vent because there's no platform for them to do that. They have to deal with gravity. Versus a horizontal vent, if your vent went up and then out this way, well, now they have a platform to enter and build a nest, and that's how birds can enter. And then as far as short vents, you're right, short vents are the best. It's very easy to clean a short vent, but even the dryer needs to be taken apart from time to time. There was a house fire in Sarasota a few years back that was because of a dryer fire, and that dryer ended up right out the wall. And the reason why that landed on my radar was because the gentleman who responded to the fire, one of the firefighters, runs a dryer vent business over there, and I follow him on Instagram. And we're good friends, and he told me that when he looked in the vent, that there was no signs of smoke or anything burning in the short vent. It was the dryer that caught on fire, and that's why it's called a dryer fire, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But my point is even short vents need maintenance too. And the proper maintenance. This is me teaching one of the classes down in Jupiter. Those are recurring events. So this is a before and after of event planning. It's possible that you've seen this picture before. In fact, it might be similar to this $15 off ad. Speaking of which, I'll go ahead and mention this now. Anytime a realtor or property manager contacts our business for, for service, whether they know about this ad that's in the business partner directory or not, we always extend this $15 off discount to them. We refer to it as a realtor or property manager discount, which it basically extends to your client. So whether you know about that discount or not, that will always be applied. There are these in the back table. I know I left one on the table. Whether you grab a copy, whether you take a picture and inform any other managers in your office, I would recommend that you at least inform them of that so that they're aware of the discount, even though it will apply. So again, these are just some before and afters of vent cleanings. You can see how the dryer vent is 4 inches in diameter, but when you have a half-inch buildup on the wall, because it's circular, it equates to a 1-inch buildup. So now the vent is 3 inches. And basically what that causes is poor dryer efficiency. So this is a picture on the right. You'll see the before and after of a dryer vent. On the left, this is the before and after of a dryer cleaning. What a lot of people do not know is that dryer manufacturers look at this service as 2 halves. Half number 1 is the obvious, cleaning out the vent. Cleaning out the vent has everything to do with the efficiency of the machine. You might have tenants that say it's taking 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 cycles to dry. We often hear that, whether it's from tenants or not. And that's because there's a vent problem, if you will, whether there's a clog on the roof. That can even be caused by the hose being crushed in the back of the dryer, could be due to a dirty vent. The other half of the service is not so obvious. It's the dryer cleanout part. Dryer manufacturers refer to it as cleaning the interior cabinet of the machine, which can only be done by taking apart the machine, which we do. Another very important thing to make a mental note of is most companies, to include the county, do not offer this complete service that is defined by the manufacturers, both halves, like we do. So therefore, if you hire a company that will only come clean out your vent, and the dryer happens to be what we call dangerously dirty, well, now you're still at risk. Cleaning out the dryer has nothing to do with the efficiency of the machine. It has everything to do with the safety of the machine. So the saying is, a clean a clean dryer is a safe dryer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have had, speaking of which, we've had so many dryers where we pulled out huge pieces of burnt lint like this. This is the biggest piece of burnt lint. I might have a picture of it here shortly that I've taken out of the dryer, and this is actually, it was bigger. I had to compact it to get in here. But this really validates why it is so important. I mean, we've had so many dryers like this where and you can see the customers connecting the dots in their mind, how if they hired somebody else that was cheaper, which we're not even the highest price in the county, but if they hired somebody that didn't do that half, they would clearly be at risk. So that's just a great example of why manufacturers recommend it. Sometimes you'll see their recommendations in the service manual or the dryer manual, the operating manual of the machine. Sometimes it'll be on the labels of the machine, but they actually do recommend that half of the service. Here's some more before and afters. I don't think we can see that, but it's no big deal. I've got tons of content on YouTube along with Facebook and social media. We put out very informative information on both our business Instagram and business Facebook page. So I highly recommend or consider following us. Different dryers we access the inside differently. Sometimes it's from the front, like you see here. Sometimes it's from the back. We don't take out the drums. I might have said this a minute ago, but we describe what we do as minimal disassembly. So we just minimally take it apart enough in order to get in there that we can still clean out the machine without having to, take every part out, including the drum. That's a super bad dryer. Doesn't take a rocket scientist or a firefighter to discern the more flammable lint you have in the machine, the higher the risk for a fire. Now, this is a GE dryer. GE dryers are the only dryer where you'll see the drum, this silver looking, what I call like a cheese grate plate in the back of the drum. GEs are the only ones that do this. And that's charred roasting lint that I pulled out from behind that. If you have a GE dryer, or if any of your properties do, I hate to say it, but most appliance guys will tell you that they're probably the least safest dryer. And here in a second, I'll tell you what the most safest dryer is. But all you have to do is shine a light back there, and what you'll often see is around the outer ring of that plate, you'll see lint building up. And you can even see, sometimes it'll look gray, but sometimes it's going to look brown. And I refer to lint, as kind of like a marshmallow, so to speak, where it's going to go through stages. It'll start getting brown and golden brown and black, and eventually it's going to flame up. Now, the safest dryer, because I don't think I have a slide about this. So the safest model dryer, we don't give recommendations as far as, we're not brand specific in our recommendations, we're model specific. The model that I'm about to tell you is made by about half a dozen manufacturers, and it's a standard size model, which is actually good for these like tight laundry closets where you can't fit an oversized model, dryer in. It's the model where the lint trap pulls from the top of the machine. You don't have to open up the door. It's that long rectangular skinny. That's the safest model on the market, and because of that, we're a huge advocate of those. They're very hard to catch on fire, if you will, and they're also very easy to fix because they're easy to take apart, which usually means that equates to they're cheaper to fix. On a similar note, I highly recommend, you might already know this, to stay away from Samsung dryers. I'm a big Samsung fan when it comes to TVs and phones, but their appliances are not built well. They've been through multiple lawsuits. Their dryers are known to be the loudest machines in the market, very problematic. And I also tell people to stay away from LG. LG, we found a bunch of issues since COVID. LG, I think it was earlier this year, they actually, because of all these problems that they're having right now, they flew out an engineer from Korea to meet me here in Florida, along with one of their service personnel, and we went to a few jobs to troubleshoot some things. And aside from their issues that they're having in production, for some interesting reason, LG brand, out of all other brands, blow the weakest behind the dryer. So the dryer is actually blowing, air. And for some reason, that brand blows the weakest, which is counterintuitive to exhausting. So those are the reasons why we don't recommend those brands. So this is a picture out of a manual that states right here, I'll read it. It says, lint should be removed every 2 years or more often, depending on dryer usage. Cleaning should be done by a qualified appliance service or ventilation system cleaner, otherwise known as a dryer guy. So that's, I think that was from a Whirlpool manual. Here, that's from a GE. I know it's a little bit hard to see, it's pixelated, but where I highlighted it, it says the interior of the machine and exhaust system is to be cleaned periodically, approximately every 18 months by a qualified service personnel. No, it does not void the warranty, otherwise they would not make this recommendation. This is just a video of a dryer clean out. We're going to miss this, but that's okay. You can catch that content elsewhere. So we do clean common stacks. Does anybody here manage a property that's 3 stories or higher, by any chance? Okay. So some properties, like we just finished a property in Cocoa Beach yesterday, where some of the buildings have a common stack, where different units feed into this common stack. It's not ideal, and there are some unintended consequences of that. But the point is, we do clean common stacks, one thing I do want to note for the few of you who manage properties that are 3-story or higher, I highly recommend a lot of vent covers that builders use at original construction or even that other people might install afterwards. They're very problematic. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of vent covers out there that clog very easily, which you don't want. And what we've run into on higher story buildings, 3rd story and higher, is these vent covers, so on the end of the units, they're not accessible. Sometimes they're not accessible. There's no balcony or window to service them. And it leaves the customer and the HOA kind of in a conundrum or predicament where the entire service can be done except for the clog, which really has to be done by hand. Our cleaning equipment that can only get so much. So the point is, if you have a building, or whether it's now or in the future, that's 3 stories or higher, and you happen to have dryer vents that are not accessible on the end of the building, if you guys ever paint the building or have any other reason why a lift is on site, try to remember the foresight of having, you might want to consider calling a company like mine or another company to inspect the vent covers, because that would be an opportune time to change out the vent covers while a lift. That way you're kind of knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone. It's clearly more cost effective, is trying to what I'm getting at. That's another before and after of a common stack cleaning. Yeah, that's a great question. So yesterday, when we did 3 of the common stacks, each one took about an hour. And that's because, the ones that we did yesterday, I was thinking about 50 feet of exhaust. I had to clean it multiple times. I kept re-inspecting to make sure that the job was getting done. So I had to clean it multiple times. And that was the one, I think, before everybody came in, I was telling Cindy that it filled up my entire vacuum. It was like a 30-gallon vacuum. This is another common stack. There was a place in Cocoa Beach where it dumped out in the garage. That was a toll ladder that we used, that we had to remove an access panel to use our vacuum. And you can just see the enormous pile of lint on the very bottom. That was just some of what came out of that common stack. Birds, nests. So birds are a big problem, and some of you guys might have experienced this, but there's been a ton of birds that have been boring holes into the sides of buildings. I first started seeing this in places like Walgreens and CVS. You'll see these small little holes towards the top of the building near the roof line, and they figured out that it's not concrete, it's stucco. So they'll start boring up, foam will go everywhere, and I was at a luxury condo on US 1, and there was foam everywhere, and the only thing that they could do was they actually ended up removing that decorative stucco and replacing it, or maybe not replacing it with anything, but birds are a problem. They do know how to get into dryer bins. Well, we tell, sometimes people are concerned with animals living in dryer bins and such. Very valid concern. We tell people the chances of an animal going in the event are like getting hit by lightning. It's very rare. It does happen, it can happen, but it's very rare, especially more rare for vertical vents like we were talking about earlier. But the only way that birds can live in there, well, let me digress. When an animal is in there, with the exception of a bird, animals cannot live in there or stay in there when the dryer's on, because when the dryer's on, it's producing about 150 degrees of heat, and the exhaust system and the metal gets so incredibly hot that nothing can stay in there, and that's why animals can't live in there either. Birds, on the other hand, if this is a horizontal vent, like in a condo, for example, and this is where you would enter in from, the exit point of the vent, birds can figure out how to get into different vent covers. Then what they'll do is, with a tremendous amount of nesting material, like you see in the box, they will dam up a section in front of where they're going to put their nest. They'll dam it up with like 2 feet of nesting material, then they'll put their nest in front of it, and that blocks the heat. And that's how they're able to nest and do what they're going to do and have babies and birds and whatnot, because of that, they're damming it up. This is me pulling out that nesting material.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
I think it's pretty.
The vent cover that we install is called the dryer wall vent cover. It's made by the Jupiter, Florida company. Super high quality, and intentionally made to help keep out critters. And we also carry a code compliant critter guard that helps pretty much guarantee that also. Most of the products that you'll find online or Home Depot or Lowe's, especially like critter guards and other stuff, are not code compliant. So things we find during the course of an inspection. You know, we see disconnections, we see crushed vents. You never know what you're going to find until you go to a job for the first time. It's quite incredible. We always think that we kind of run out of first-time situations, but we always are finding something quite interesting. These are some critter guards that you can see, that none of which are code compliant. Code says you're not allowed to have a screen. You are not allowed to have a screen at the end of a dryer vent discharge point. And you can see why it clogs up. Clogs create hazards. While it's on mind, in relation to dryer fires and hazards and stuff, normal dryer times are 20 to 40 minutes. Excessive dryer times are often correlated to hazards. For rental properties, I highly recommend having some sort of placard or a sign, a laminated index card, or something that has some suggestions. Unfortunately, common sense is not so common these days. Some suggestions like clean the lid stream before every use. Suggestion, do not move the dryer back any farther than where it's at so that the hose doesn't get crushed. A suggestion like, if you start noticing it's taking more than one cycle consistently, please let us know. Because again, what happens is when people call saying, oh, it's taking 2 or 3 cycles to dry, meaning 2 or 3 hours, the dryer's overheating. That can cause heat-related stress in the parts, and it's a very common problem where those parts can go bad, and now not only do you have to have the vent cleaned, but you have to have the machine repaired. That's hazard number 1. Also, when the lint can't get out because of the clog, it's now building up in the dryer at a more rapid rate, which increases the risk for a fire. And that's just half of some of the hazards that are associated with clogs. More things we find during our inspection. That's the piece of plank that's in the shadow box here. I have a big head, and it was bigger than my head when I pulled it out of the dryer. Just other chunks of burnt lint. A lot of times this burnt lint is associated with clogs. people don't know, we always tell people that what I just told you a minute ago as far as what normal driver times are, because so many times people are calling and they're telling us, just like the other day, I spoke to somebody, it's taking 2 or 3 hours to drive, and you kind of wonder yourself, why didn't you call us like way sooner? It's always progression. Go ahead.
If you have this in your dryer, wouldn't you smell it when it's running?
That's a great question. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Sometimes people call saying, hey, I'm smelling burning. It all depends on the sensitivity of the nose. I know my nose, ever since I had COVID, it doesn't smell correctly. I do still smell, but my point is, sometimes you do, yeah. And sometimes it might smell like burnt toast. But some people really are clueless. Like, they'll just turn their dryer on, they walk away, and they come back, and it's not dry. They put it on a cycle, they walk away, and they're not really being attentive to it. So sometimes they don't know, but you're right. Sometimes you do smell. I was at a property a couple years back, and the lady, it was a group day, and the lady hired me to do her house and then her daughter's house, which was in a different neighborhood. And she said that the only reason why she hired me to do her daughter's house was because she had a dream that her daughter's house was going to catch on fire because of a dryer fire. This is not a lie. And I get there, and the lady's son-in-law was there, which for some reason she didn't have a lot of good things to say about. And I turned the dryer on, went to the roof, and while I'm on the roof cleaning out the clog, I'm smelling burning. So I quickly come back downstairs, turn off the dryer, and I knock on the door, and they opened the door, and I said, "You guys smell that?" And it was very potent smell of burning. So I opened up the dryer, and there was so much burnt lint in there. They said, whatever burnt lint you find, put it on this boogie board, and it filled up the entire boogie board of burnt lint. Entire.
You don't really pull the thing out?
Oh, no, it was the inside cabinet of the machine, yeah, inside cabinet, yeah. So that was pretty great, and it's crazy that she had a dream about it. That's the crazy part. I had another similar situation the year prior where somebody had called me saying that the husband, the wife, and the daughter had left the house, turned the dryer on. The husband was on the other side of the house in his office with his lab. He said the lab came to his office, was pulling him in the direction of the laundry room, and when he got there, it was smoking. So he said he quickly disconnected the power line and called me, and sure enough, there was like basically a flash fire in the dryer. So the most common rooftop product is referred to as a gooseneck because of the shape of it. It looks like a goose head. The 4-inch ones are no longer code compliant, effective January 1st of 2021. Some roofers have not caught wind of that, and somehow they're still getting away with installing it. But you can see here that the 4-inch one clogs very easy. We always tell our customers, if it clogs once, it will clog again. And if it's a continued problem, there is a much better product that we can recommend and help get installed. Unfortunately, for some reason, roofers are in the habit and are inclined to using these goosenecks that are not even designed for dryer vents. They're designed for bathroom vents. And because of that, these products come pre-installed with a screen. And maybe you've already been in a situation where the roofer forgot to remove the screen, and then weeks later it clogs up, and then your tenant is calling saying, why is it taking so long? I'm going to skip this because I'm running out of time. So we love animals. This is just a couple pictures of me and some pets. I used to actually run a dog and pet care company in Virginia. Here's a silly dog who's got this head out of the dryer vent. There's a clogged dryer vent for you. We also do specialize, so we're a full service company. We specialize in cleanings, repairs, and full vent installs. We have specialized equipment to core bore through concrete. The picture on the left is where we just bored through concrete, which sometimes involves rebar. All of our installs come with a lifetime workmanship warranty. We're very confident in our installs. They always, we're very familiar with dryer manufacturers' recommendations along with building code. So all of our installs actually exceed the minimum standards of building code. Did you have a question? Okay. Sometimes we retrofit them like you see here in this picture. Sometimes if the wall cavity is big enough to conceal them, the customer will opt for that. Our estimates include drywall removal. We do not do drywall repair. We could give a recommendation or two for that. Consequences of clogs, you're gonna absolutely have long dryer times, which increases energy costs. We've had people tell us that after our service, their energy bill dropped $40 because it was taking so long to dry, 2 or 3 hours. Other consequences that overheats, which I said earlier, can result in part failure. Condensation or water accumulation. We've taken gallons of water out of vents before. In fact, this job right here, I did in 2020 for a lady in Palm Bay. It was raining through her ceiling because she neglected her vent for years, never had it cleaned, and because of the clog, all that basically steam that couldn't exhaust properly was accumulating in her dryer head. That's like you taking a hot, steamy shower, you don't turn the fan on, you don't open up the door, all that steam is going to condensate on your glass or the mirrors in the form of water droplets. Well, when people keep using their dryer despite having problems, it can literally accumulate gallons of water, and it was raining through her ceiling. So this is why we actually did that install. Yes, that one right here. Yep. I've got a 2-minute video on my YouTube channel that talks about the consequences of clogs. I highly recommend checking it out. Speaking of water and condensation in ducts and dryers, every summer, starting around May, we get probably an extra, during the summer, we get maybe an extra 100 or 200 calls, whether it's from current customers or new people saying, hey, I opened up my dryer and it looks like it's sweating. There's a bunch of condensation in there. And that provoked me because I had to repeat the same information to people all the time. That provoked me to write an article about it, which is on our website. I will be updating that article soon. But what's basically happening is there's all this disgusting hot humid air that we deal with in the summer. Sometimes the vent is not is wide open, the vent cover is improper, or maybe it's not sealing well enough. So you have forced air or passive humid air coming down the vent. And if the door of the dryer stays shut, well, now that humid air is trapped, and that can result in the dryer drum sweating, which can sometimes amount to a couple of tablespoons of water found in the drum. And there are some solutions for that, but you might have tenants or you might have experienced that yourself. It's really prone in the mornings. You know, in the mornings, you wake up in the morning, you'll find condensation on like your slider door or some windows, but you don't find that in the afternoon. So it's highly likely that this phenomenon, if you will, you're going to only kind of see this in the morning time. So we tell people that you might want to consider leaving your dryer door open just at night and then shutting it kind of mid-morning when that humid air starts to taper off. But it's only a summer thing. As the humidity starts to taper off in the next, hopefully 30 to 60 days, people who are experiencing this will no longer experience it. This is called the dryer flex, which will lead me into the connector hoses on the back of dryers. The most common hose that we find is called, is that slinky, old-fashioned foil kind of hose. It's the one, it might look similar, but it's this one. And in fact, I'd be willing to bet that if we have not been to your house, probably half of you fine folks have that slinky kind of foil hose. However, there's a warning label on the back of every machine that says do not use plastic or foil hoses. It goes on to say failure to follow these instructions can result in death or fire. Places like Lowe's and Sears and other stores have had class action lawsuits against them for installing the foil hose. So we inform, we never give sales pitches. We're all about informing people so that they can make fully informed decisions. We carry products in our van. This one's called the Dryer Flex, that's sold by that Jupiter, Florida-based company. It's our most popular product. It's our best transition hose. We offer a lifetime warranty with it. We custom make both of our products, meaning we cut it the size so it's not excessively long, not inconveniently short, and there's some other parts involved. Anytime we find deficiencies, whether it's small or big, we always obviously inform people of that and can provide solutions to that. Innovate also carries this fantastic product called the Dryer Jack, which is the best product for dryer vents for rooftop applications, in contrast to goosenecks. They've designed this so well that it actually helps your dryer performance versus goosenecks that do not. Goosenecks restrict air. And we're partnered with a roofing company that can help install this for our customers. This is called the dryer wall vent, the one that I was telling about earlier that helps keep birds out when the vent discharges on the wall of the home. You can see it has a recessed door, which is how the birds can't get in there. And it also has some slight magnets to help keep the door shut when it needs to shut. But just like any other product, that flapper will fly open when the dryer is on. Yeah, so we install those for $95. That's a starting rate of $95. That includes removal of the old and installing the new one. And we also use silicone afterwards to seal it. And it's a starting rate because sometimes it's more involved taking off the other one, or there might be some other complications, but 99% of the people only pay $95. And this is so high quality, it's powder coated galvanum. It's so high quality, it would probably take a couple of decades to need to replace that. Super high quality. This is the code compliant critter guard. You can see how it's different from the other ones that I showed you that were clawed. The other ones that I showed you were more like a grid pattern, whether it was a micro screen or bigger. That qualifies as a screen. Now, right now, building code does not define what a screen is. So, if there was 100 fire marshals in here or fire inspectors, and you said, and you were to ask them in reference to the gridded guard that you can find at Lowe's or Home Depot, does this qualify for a screen? A percentage of these fire marshals will say, yes, it does, and a percentage of them will say, no, it doesn't, because right now there's ambiguity in the code that doesn't define what a screen is. I think one of the next code updates, we're hoping that changes, but there are fire marshals that I spoke with here in the county that absolutely say that those gridded ones are considered a screen, but I've also spoken to one in Titusville that says it's not a screen. So this one is not, now lint can still accumulate in there, but it's a little bit less prone. I have one installed at my house and I've never had to clean it out. That one's also 95 installed. Great question. But you can see they can clog up over time, so sometimes they do need maintenance. Now, my vent, the one at my house, is a short vent, like the one you were talking about earlier. And because it's so short, the air pressure is so strong that it's blowing right through that grate. I don't know how long the vent is here. I suspect it's not a short vent. And that's actually a previous model than the one that I have now. I think the one that I have now, the bars are slightly bigger. But the point is no matter what critter guard, we always tell customers that this might need periodic maintenance. And we would never suggest installing this somewhere where it cannot be maintained, like on a 3-story building where you don't have access to. That's where that dryer wall vent cover would come in handy. We've installed tons of those at condos beachside, have not had any reports of corrosion, and no reports of birds getting in them since we installed. So, this is the Q&A part. I know you all had a few questions so far, but sometimes you might see one of these signs in people's yards. We sometimes offer a discount if we could put a sign in people's yards, and come back and get it after a week or two. But that's my spiel. Does anybody have any questions? I know you probably do. Go ahead. Deborah?
So I have a testimony. I've actually used them at one of my rental properties because the dryer was sweating inside the door, like he had just talked about. And we had them come out, and Nate didn't come out, but Connor did. And he called me up and he said, you know, gave me the full diagnosis, and it wasn't extraordinary, but, you know, it needed cleaning. And then he said, I recommend that you do this, and I had options. It was a recommendation. We went with a higher priced one because it was worth it. It wasn't astronomical, I think it was $40, whatever, on top of the service. He's coming to my house, because as soon as I get home, I'm calling the office and telling him how I and then, one other, question for you. So I highly recommend that you use them. I live in an HOA. Would you come in and talk to us in our HOA?
Great question. I'm always looking for speaking opportunities like this. I've done this at.
I mean, they will not tolerate this long of a discussion.
Oh, no, trust me.
You'll have to consolidate it to 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can make 10 or 15-minute talks, but
We
yeah.
have 108 properties in our HOA.
I've done speaking events at Grand Isle and other community clubhouses, so yes, I'm all about it, and I can accommodate whatever time people will give me.
We meet on the 3rd Wednesday of every month at 7 o'clock.
Okay,
So I will try to set that up.
yeah,
You're coming to my house.
awesome. And yeah, as far as our business line, it is textable, you can call or text, whatever's convenient for you.
Yeah.
What other questions?
So I'm at like, shared, comment, and win a free dryer cleaning service. So I won, and he came to my house and he cleaned out everything. The previous owners had never done it, so it was gross. And
I don't
then
even think I wanna see what comes out of the dryer vent,
well,
but
and we didn't realize how many times we were like restarting our dryer and doing all the things, and then we had you come out 2 years later, and really we didn't need you to come out.
Yep.
Like it was, he came out, he's like, we don't really need to be here, like there's nothing for me to do, it looks great. And I was like, that's what I love about him, like it was, you know, if you like him, you like him. And then I used him on an HOA, beach side, and the owner was completely compliant with the HOA. I think they had a staffable thing too, because you got on the phone with them, we were on a three-way call, and they were like, there's nothing wrong, like you said their things were
Yeah.
clear, but you suspected that it was the staff thing, and they weren't having any of it. And it was very interesting to hear him be like, listen, I'm not gonna let you waste my property manager's time or my time, when we both know what the issue is. Like it was, so we will fight to get like things.
I go to bat for my customers, I appreciate that. We have camera scoping technology, we can, most companies don't have that technology, or at least the one that we do, which is super high quality. We can camera scope stuff, and to your point about repeat visits, a lot of our customers, when we come back, they might need one part of the service, like the vent cleaning, but their dryer's not very bad. So whether it's a new customer or a repeat customer, we always charge people accordingly to what they're getting. So we're happy to adjust the price, we're hyper transparent that way. Yes, ma'am.
So you will, like, line item it, the difference between the vent and the brush?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, our cleaning package, which I know we got into, but our cleaning package is a starting rate right now of $169. That includes the before and after inspection of the cleaning. It includes both the vent cleaning and the dryer cleaning.
Okay.
If we go to, where someone calls and says, oh, I got a brand new dryer, we discount the service $35 if the dryer does not need to be cleaned. So that drops down to $134, and that's not even including the $15 realtor or property manager discount. And if someone calls us just for the dryer clean out, then we consider that what we call a service call, which is not the full package. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's
So,
also.
so the cleaning package comes with both halves of the service, the complete service.
So we can figure it out, so, you know, I've got some really problematic buildings right now.
Hmm.
We think everything is the tenant's responsibility. It's your property, do you want it to burn down?
Yeah, right.
You know, tenants aren't gonna, so I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, okay, well, if the dryer belongs to the tenant, then I'd like to, you know, we can break that line item out, but still require them to do it.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and at that point, we're happy to split stuff like that if the owner really does not want to pay for the $35 at that point dryer clean out. I know some owners are more reluctant to have proactive services done or even reactive services done, and I'm happy to equip property managers with digital flyers or other pictures to really, pictures speak 1,000 words. And so when your owners see some of the pictures or videos that I can equip you with, it's probably going to motivate them to have the service done. So just, if you have a hard-headed owner like that, reach out to me and I'll equip you with some information. They'll probably be quite persuaded.
and the slinky versus the vet, and they look the same,
They look similar.
but it is a safer version of.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yep.
And he has that on the truck.
Yeah, we have.
So
those
if you
on
got them
the-
on private, like there was one thing that they recommended that I switch out, and it was a recommendation, but for safety
For
purposes.
safety, and then they don't have to make a second trip to do it.
Correct.
Right, oh, no,
Yeah.
and fortunately, I had the ability to just say, yeah, do it.
And
Thank
we-
you very much.
And with rental properties, what we try to do is, because sometimes their property manager might not be accessible during the appointment, so that we'll have this kind of conversation with them during the booking, be like, hey, if we run into this over there, can we get pre-approved? And then we'll go over the pricing and the options at that point. That way, we don't have to call the property manager for something kind of small like that.
I like phone calls.
Yeah, I do.
And do you, like, one of your series just for
Great question. We do entire county of Brevard. We also do east side of Orlando, like Nona, Oviedo, Christmas area. We go up to Geneva, Osteen, and New Smyrna Beach. That pricing is different than our Brevard pricing. So when people call from out of those areas, we basically give the address and give the pricing from there. But yes, we do cover that area. We have a number of clients in New Smyrna Beach, east side of Orlando, even in Orlando. And then if people don't like our pricing, which I get it because it is going to be higher, then there are several reputable companies run by friends of mine that we to, so they can even, you know, get other pricing and estimates.
Good.
Yep, great question. Any other questions? Say again?
It's not like.
Well, I appreciate that.
No BS and straightforward.
Well, it's honest business.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it came back to you for a second time and
Yeah.
they didn't need to do it.
I keep his little magnet on my fridge, and every couple months I'm like,
He's our go-to guy. I don't know if you deal with Donna, and then you're nothing.
Oh, yeah, yes. Okay, nice. One thing that's on my mind at the moment is, I had a job earlier this year in Merritt Island where the property was not conducive to having a lift on it. It was on the water, and to make a long story short, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that was the first job that I had to do a lift to get up to access some of the vents. Because not only did this property, it was a luxury property, not only did they sign up for our vent cleanings, but we also changed out all their vent covers. They were having a huge problem with birds, so we changed out the vent covers, and that required a lift, because it was, I think, a 4-story building. So my point is that was the first job that I had the opportunity to do rappelling. I was rappelling from the roof.
did you get pictures?
Yes, I got videos. So now I'm a very adventurous guy. I'm the kind of guy that jumps off the cliffs and the rivers and stuff like that. So, the point is that I can offer that service if there's a property that cannot get a lift on it.
Can you send us a digital thing for our Facebook so we can, when we post the pictures from today?
Yeah,
We can
yeah.
link you on
Yeah.
it. I have, we have your Facebook page, right? And it's a digital thing.
A digital,
Picture of something that you like to do when advertising.
Okay, yeah.
Attached to our Facebook.
okay. Any other questions? Well, if you think there's one, just call, text, or email me. I really appreciate y'all's time today. I'll hang out.
Good job in getting him.
I tried.
You did good.
All right, everybody. Best practices right here. Well, something about
Good,
that.
you did.
Okay, best practices for the discussion is what types of things that we're sharing, what types of things do we recommend our owners do on an annual basis or on a.
Maintenance wise?
Maintenance wise.
Maintenance.
Preventive maintenance. And it is. Oh my God, I thought, I just took on 40 properties and asked the, someone, these are nice houses.
Somebody that we know, they do like inspections for renters and house inspection, it's just recommended maintenance things that they do.